Okay, so we're Team ClimateWell, but today we're going to talk to you about the complementers to the green tech industry and kind of broader industry for sustainability and environmental policy in general. We've really focused a lot on U.S. trade associations, certifications, consumer associations, but first I'm going to identify a few of the support structures in place in Sweden and kind of what's behind that. And we've touched a little bit today on some of this. But in our... So in a lot of our research, we've kind of seen that Sweden has really been a leader, kind of a first mover in putting into place a lot of standards, codes of conduct, and policies for their business environment. And a lot of that really is kind of the cultural makeup. So some of the research that we've looked through has really kind of seen Sweden as this environment with a natural inclination towards building standards across all areas. And this has really helped them in the green tech industry. Another attribute of Sweden in general is this consensus-oriented nation, and one specifically where they've seen public interest groups, government, state, and businesses really work together to get policy to happen very quickly. And that's why they've been able to get into the market so fast and put in place some of their standards. An example of this is an organization called Natural Step that was founded in Sweden in the early 1990s. It was kind of pulled together by a public interest group and grew into an organization where business leaders work with state and public interest groups to build entirely sustainable communities. And this program has really expanded. They're in 11 countries across the globe now, and they've even developed certification programs that you can sign up for if you're looking to get involved in building entirely sustainable communities. So something that we found really unique in terms of support structures is the legislative environment in Sweden. In the late 1990s, I think it was actually 1999, the government passed legislation that actually required its businesses to put information regarding their environmental impact in their annual report, making all of their information highly public. And this is actually pretty well implemented. I think Will was talking about this idea of having audits in place to make sure that what you're reporting is actually what you're turning out. And so companies really are hit financially hard. If their emission reports are high, if their waste production is high, then emission limitations are put on and cleanup costs are imposed by the government. So, and the Swedish Environmental Code is the license that companies are under to do this type of reporting, and there are actually 20,000 businesses now in Sweden who have to maintain this license agreement. Most of these companies are businesses that tend to produce a product that could harm the environment or be harmful for the environment. Thank you. Another example of certification or being a pioneer in the certification field is an eco-labeling. Sweden was the first country to create a national certification plan for its forest products. And since it's done that, the image of the entire industry has actually been kind of reformed and rebuilt, and they've been very successful there. This was made possible through the Forest Stewardship Council, which is a really interesting organization to look at, and they work internationally to make sure the certification process keeps going. And another example, we talked a little bit about government support and a little bit about public interest support, but we've even seen support in the entire Nordic region where political parties will kind of gear up to make sure that policy is being passed as quick as possible. So in an instance of Norway really pressing for their government to operate at a speed that Sweden was operating at, they united behind an energy bill to get a green certification market in conjunction with Sweden. So that's some political party support examples. And then finally, I'm just going to mention for our research purposes some global industry associations to look at. Sweden has worked really closely with these industry and non-industry specific organizations just to bring their standardization conversation to the table. So the International Network for Environmental Management, the International Chamber of Commerce, and Global Reporting Initiative are good resources to take a look at when we're looking. So now we'll move into our US certification portion of the presentation.
So when you Google or try to look up green certifications in the US, you will find a huge list of different companies and different types of certificates that you can get. So we tried to kind of narrow it down a little bit by some of those that are a little bit more well-known. You probably see some things that are a little bit more familiar, like Energy Star, LEED certification. And basically, these associations are sort of serve a dual role. They're both for the companies to kind of come together and provide one place that consumers can go to and find a list of these companies that associate with the green labels. But they also provide a way for companies to market themselves as green. You can see from the table that it represents a variety of different industries and products. Some of the labels are specific to products like Energy Star. People have heard of that. You can get an Energy Star rated refrigerator or other home appliances. Some of the other ones that you may not have heard of, like Green E, who actually plays a really big part in certifying companies and providing these renewable energy certificates that companies can then go forward and sell to other organizations that might need these credits to comply with other environmental laws. But you can see a wide variety of industries. I think that there are definitely opportunities for some of the products and services that our companies provide to take advantage of some of these labels and go through these processes. And what we found was that many of these different labels or certification processes were very similar. Typically, they would go through an application process, and I'll get to that more in a little bit. But very similar in terms of how those are constructed. But I do want to talk a little bit, just because I have a little bit of personal experience with those renewable energy certificates and how they work. And we talked a little bit in the last presentation about state-specific regulations and sort of that environment. The company that I worked for, just a little anecdote, used to have an environmentally friendly technology that we installed in certain states. And so based on that state's regulations, and we actually were more concerned with clean air and CO2 emissions regulations, we would earn energy certificates. And there's a whole market out there. Particularly we traded through Carbon Fund, which is one of the organizations, and you can actually go to the Department of Energy's website and find a full listing of retailers that trade these certificates, a full listing of different markets that they're traded in, and it's a really good way for companies to actually earn money and sort of it's a way to subsidize them, so that when you're the smaller green tech firm, you can still gain a little bit of money by being able to kind of trade those credits with other companies. So that's another example. It's not on this list, but it is another example. And actually, Green E is one of the organizations that awards those certificates to companies. So it is a good opportunity for that. But as far as the process goes, very similar, as I said, for